Tell us, what do you see as the biggest change in how leaders are thinking about performance management today compared to 6 months ago? Dani, would you start?
Um, sure. So I would say, so the world's changed on us, right? Especially in healthcare. We're on the front lines of the pandemic, being a hospital system of 78,000 employees and serving over about 1.5 million patients in any given year. And so we have been totally focused on minimizing the infection of coronavirus. And as a result of that, to be, totally honest, performance management has not been high on our radar screen. But what I have seen is we begin to think about re-entering the workforce, because we're all still working remotely, performance management in this new environment. Working remote, which didn't exist for us as much today, but we may be 50% remote going forward, is one of the critical factors about performance management. Learning how to manage someone's performance from a remote location. How do you evaluate? How do you engage? How do you provide coaching? That is just a new context for our organization, and I think maybe healthcare at large, in terms of this magnitude of the change. So that for us is front and center on our minds about how do we provide high level performance in this new world of working remote, and then also on site, and who will work remote and who will work on site, and how often, and the frequency of that. So those are that's just the highlights of what's going on for us around performance management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Zuhairah, would you share your perspective?
Happy to, and thanks for having me today and participating in this conversation. As you mentioned, I work in technology, and tech and startups typically are known for hard driving, performance management cultures. I've worked at companies in the past where they've done, gone so far as had stacked rankings, right? So pushing out kind of the lowest of performers. I think, as you've noted, this is a different time. And the clearest way I can explain it is, I think we'll be evaluating much more results orientation versus driving results. Because the business results are impacted by so many things outside of the control of the individuals that are in position to, drive revenue or drive product or other things. I think we're going to look much more to see, did you do everything in your power, right, to actually try to bring the business back online, to support others in that effort, to be there for customers? So are you oriented to driving those results? Not necessarily just looking, did you hit the KPI we set at the beginning of the year, because that's unreasonable. I think the second thing is just engagement. A lot of companies have gone and, by necessity, furloughed workers. They've had to do significant layoffs. And so the individuals that are left are some of the best talent, right? So you want to make sure that they're engaged. And so I think we'll have different types of conversations, hopefully ones that are more around coaching and long-term development and getting them to be bought in, right, for the foreseeable future, as, a lot of companies sort out what's next for their business.
Yeah, thank you. Important issues. So, Ella, as you share the shifts over the past 6 months, maybe you can also put this in context of the longer term evolution that performance management has undergone, because you began to speak to some of that in your piece for the Perspectives column.
Absolutely. Well, Laura, thank you for having me. And I echo the sentiments that have already been shared. What comes to mind for me is that organizations are challenging previous assumptions around performance management, and also having kind of an honest conversation around what was working and what wasn't working even before COVID. And so this is an opportunity for organizations to look critically at their performance management systems, particularly, what structures are in place. So as you mentioned, Laura, organizations have been shifting away in large part from only having an annual performance review Many organizations are shifting to having a annual review and, continuous conversations and other mechanisms of feedback. And some companies on the more radical side of things have gotten rid of performance reviews altogether. And we've seen various examples of success, and some companies being honest about they're still figuring it out, right? And so there's no kind of gold standard of what performance management should look like, except that we know that it means continuous feedback. It means coaching, and it means giving employees kind of the opportunity to engage with their managers on what their goals will look like over the coming year moving forward. And so I don't think that COVID has derailed that. I think it's accelerated it. In terms of now what does performance in those spaces look like, particularly for a work from home workforce, looking like from a smaller workforce and truly having to do more with less.